In the crisis in Ukraine, President Biden announced new sanctions today in response to what he called Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
And there's new details this hour on the diplomatic effort. WGN's Dana Rebick is joining us now with that. Dana?
Well, within the last hour, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken announced he is canceling a meeting with Russia's foreign minister this week after moves the country made into Ukraine last night. We heard from President Biden this afternoon as well on just how exactly the U.S. is now responding.
Who in the Lord's name does Putin think gives him the right to declare new so-called countries on territory that belong to his neighbors? This is a flagrant violation of international law.
The Biden administration today announcing sanctions on Russia against two large banks and against the Russian elite, cutting off Western financing. Biden also moving hundreds of U.S. troops and military equipment already stationed in Europe to Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania.
Let me be clear. These are totally defensive moves on our part. We have no intention of fighting Russia. We want to send an unmistakable message, though, that the United States, together with our allies, will defend every inch of NATO territory.
The Russian parliament granted President Vladimir Putin's request to deploy forces outside the country's borders. Convoys of armored vehicles were seen rolling into two so-called separatist independent republics in the Donbas region of eastern Ukraine, Putin calling these troops peacekeepers. But today, shelling could be heard in the distance with smoke coming from a power plant that was hit.
Moving the troops is clear an escalation.
Loyola history professor Michael Khardakovsky fears the U.S. took too long to act.
On the eve of World War II, when Britain negotiated with Germany, and Winston Churchill said, you cannot negotiate with a tiger while your head is in his mouth. And it's the same thing. They should have introduced the sanctions earlier. And I think the sanctions should be stronger.
NATO Secretary General said today every indication points to Russia planning for a full-scale attack on Ukraine, with an estimated 150,000 Russian troops now surrounding the country. President Biden said he feels there is still time to negotiate and avoid what he called the worst-case scenario if Putin remains open to diplomacy.
When all is said and done, we're going to judge Russia by its actions, not its words. And whatever Russia does next, we're ready to respond with unity, clarity, and conviction.
The United Kingdom also imposed sanctions against Russian banks and oligarchs. Germany announced the halt of the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline project with Russia. Today, Ukraine's foreign minister, he is in Washington and met with Antony Blinken. We'll have more on their conversation coming up at 6. Micah.
Thank you, Dana. Well, the announcement about removing the mask mandate and showing your COVID card is good news to most small business owners.
And WGN's Megan Dwyer is live in